Welcome to Apropos. Well, the case has the potential to derail her presidential ambitions. French far-right leader Marine Le Pen has gone on trial along with other members of the National Rally on charges of embezzling European parliamentary funds by creating fake jobs. If convicted, the sanctions could include jail, but also a decade-long ban from public office, putting paid to Le Pen's hopes of succeeding Emmanuel Macron in the 2027 presidential election. With the details, here's Emerald Maxwell.
The longtime leader of France's far right, Marine Le Pen, standing trial in a case that could derail her future political plans. Le Pen is accused of embezzling European Parliament funds. Arriving at court in Paris Monday, Le Pen denied any wrongdoing.
I approached this trial with great serenity. We haven't broken any rules. No political rule and no regulatory rule of the European Parliament.
Le Pen has been charged alongside her father, Jean-Marie, who founded the National Rally Party, and 24 current and former party members. Prosecutors say that for 12 years, beginning in 2004, money destined for EU Parliament work was instead used to pay staff who did political work for the party.
It wasn't just money here and there. It was a system that was put in place and that started with Jean-Marie Le Pen and continued with Marine Le Pen to centralize the money allocated by the European Parliament. The European Parliament's money is money that belongs to the European people.
At the time of the alleged embezzlement, the National Rally Party was facing severe financial problems. Despite denying any wrongdoing, the party has already paid back €1 million to the European Parliament, including over €300,000 that were directly linked to Le Pen's alleged misuse. If found guilty, the defendants could face up to 10 years in jail, a €1 million fine, and be barred for up to 5 years from public office. That last penalty would deal a huge blow to Le Pen, who is widely seen as a frontrunner in the 2027 presidential election.
Well, to discuss, we're joined by political analyst Olivier Costa, research professor at Sciences Po. Thank you so much for being with us on the programme this evening, Olivier. As we heard there, this would be a devastating blow for Marine Le Pen if she is convicted. These charges were filed after a 9-year investigation. What exactly is Marine Le Pen accused of, and how serious are these alleged offences?
Yeah, it's a very serious case. It's not the first time that some politician or political parties are accused of using some parliamentary assistant to do some job for their party or at home for other activities. But in the case of the Rassemblement National, they really created a system to systematically use part of the parliamentary assistant they were allowed to hire to work in Paris only for the party or only for the leaders of the party, even as bodyguards for Jean-Marie Le Pen or Marine Le Pen. So it's a very serious case. And Marine Le Pen is pretending that she broke no rule, but the rules of the European Parliament are very clear. People who are paid by the European Parliament as staff members for MEPs can only do work related to the European Parliament and to the mandate of the MEPs.
Well, Marine Le Pen denies wrongdoing, as does the National Rally. What exactly is its defence? It appears to be arguing that this case actually stems from cultural differences between Paris and Brussels in terms of what constitutes being an employee of a political party. So what exactly does that mean, and what do you believe the defence is going to be over the next 2 months?
Yeah, she cannot deny the fact because the file is a very complete one, and there is no doubt that they have done that. So her argument is to say that here there is a cultural divergence, that in the European Parliament people would have some sort of German political culture saying that parliamentary assistants are some sort of staff members of the European Parliament like civil servant. And she said that in France we have a different approach because parliamentary assistants are more involved in political work. And so political work is not only writing amendment, it can be done also in Paris to help a politician doing politics. But the argument is a bit weak because the text, the rules of the European Parliament are very clear. There is especially a new regulation that was adopted in 2009, which is clearly stating that a parliamentary assistant cannot work for political parties and must work in link with the activities of the European Parliament. So I think it will be very difficult for Marine Le Pen to make a case, but she has no other choice than to propose something and to say that indeed we did that, but we were of good faith.
And the main risk here for Marine Le Pen, it's not particularly financial, it is of course political. What kind of impact could this have on her presidential ambitions if she is found guilty?
There can be two impacts. The first one would be ineligibility. So Marine Le Pen not being able to run for the next presidential election that should become in 2027 or maybe earlier if Macron decides to resign. But even if she's not ineligible, there will be an impact on her public image. I think maybe the 10 or 15% of voters of the Rassemblement National who have been voting for that party for 20 years, they would not care. Like the electors of Donald Trump don't care when he's involved in some legal cases. But the other one, those who are more moderate, who were finding that Marine Le Pen was right when saying that justice must be tough, that rules must be respected, then maybe they would find it a bit funny for Marine Le Pen to be convicted of something, even if it's not eligible, if she is condemned to be obliged to pay something, it would not look good.
Yeah, but some in her own party, they seem to be suggesting that Marine Le Pen, the National Rally, they will remain in the media spotlight now over the next few weeks, over the next 2 months. And she herself will be in court as much as possible. Do you think that perhaps is part of the party's legal strategy to remain in the headlines?
Oh yeah, it's a very good strategy. It's a poker game. It may be something good for her, and especially if she can convince people that she's harassed by the system, that people in the European Parliament and the judge in France, they don't like them, and basically they just try to make her quiet. But at the same time, she's exposing herself very much. And usually when politicians are involved in such situation, they send their lawyers. They don't come in person. So I think it's a very risky strategy for Marine Le Pen.
As you mentioned earlier, her party, it's not the first French one to face accusations of misusing MEP funds. The centrist Modem party was fined €300,000 earlier this year over similar allegations. But how does this case differ? Marine Le Pen appears to be suggesting that it's quite similar, actually.
It's quite different because the size of the case is much more smaller, because in the case of the Rassemblement National, we're talking about 7 million euros. In the case of the centrist party, it was only a bit less than 300,000. Also, the judge were not able to prove that it was something really systematically organized. But nevertheless, 8 persons were condemned in the case of the centrists. So it's only the head of the party that was not finally judged guilty. And so Marine Le Pen is saying here there's a difference in treatment because as a centrist, they get rid of that, and now they're chasing them. It's not exactly true. So the centrist party, it was a smaller case, and 8% had to face some quite important sanctions.
And Olivier, has the European Parliament itself been impacted by these allegations? Lawyers in Brussels are suggesting that it suffered financial and reputational damage. Is that the case?
Oh, yeah, it is, because people have quite a bad image of the European Union not being able to use decently public money and the money of European citizens. So it's a very important case for the European Parliament, especially after the Qatargate 2 years ago with those allegations of corruption and so on. So it's very important for the European Parliament to show that European funds are not misused in the European Parliament, that they're taking that very seriously, and that there are very strict rules to be respected. And it's true that there are tons of rules in Brussels, and all people working with EU institutions know that. And so it's an occasion for the European Parliament to show that they take that very seriously.
And finally, we've been watching images of him sitting alongside his mentor as we've been speaking with you, Olivier. Jordan Bardella, he used to work in such an assistant role, but he's not accused of anything. He's not part of this trial. But has he been caught up in this affair at all?
Yeah, but I think Jordan Bardella has managed very nicely to invent all sorts of activities afterwards. So he was very lucky to escape the thing, because at the time he was paid as a parliamentary assistant while being in Paris doing other things for the party. But then he has provided some agendas, some press work, etc., to show that he was really working and that it was not a fake job. So he was very lucky to be outside of that game. And maybe he will even be more lucky if Marine Le Pen is not able to run for the next presidential election, because in that case, it will be probably him.
Running for election himself. Olivier, thank you so much for that analysis. That's political analyst and research professor at Sciences Po, Olivier Costa. Thank you so much for your time on the programme. Well, that is it from us.